Crookie, for you, I mean, this is the first show actually we've had, actually, guys. There's a good segue into sort of a year of INEOS. Crookie, have you seen enough from them? Are you confident in them? Do you believe in them?
No.
No, and no.
I think it's been a disaster. I don't think we should come away from the main crux of the issue, and a lot of people have stopped talking about it. The reason that United are in such dire straits, the reason that the finances are so poor, the stadium has fallen into disrepair, the training ground is not up to it compared to a lot of the big teams in the Premier League, is because of the Glazers. And there was a milestone moment last week when the latest accounts came out for the last quarter of last year, and the interest payments on the loans that the Glazers have taken out to buy the football club are now £1 billion. So all the time the Glazers are in situ, and they're showing no great inclination to sell. It's very difficult for United to get back to where they were because the damage has been so bad. However, INEOS have come in and made bad decision after bad decision. I was an advocate of sticking with Erik ten Hag. I know a lot of people weren't. However, it does feel now like that was a knee-jerk reaction purely to winning the FA Cup, and also because they spoke to a lot of managers like Thomas Tuchel who didn't want the job. They weren't happy with the parameters that were being laid down by INEOS. Now, that tells you quite a lot. Anyway, they did that. They gave him a new contract. It's cost them £10 million to pay him off. It's cost them £4 million to hire and then ultimately fire very quickly Dan Ashworth. They didn't want Ruben Amorim in the summer. They'd gone for him in the winter transfer window, even though they know that his style of play doesn't suit the squad. That's not Amorim's problem. That's an INEOS problem. I'm yet to be convinced by Jason Wilcox. I think his rise from being in charge of the academy at Manchester City to going to Southampton, and ultimately he would have been responsible for a lot of signings they made last summer. I've already mentioned they're the worst team the Premier League's ever seen, so that's a little bit on Wilcox. So I'm not convinced by him. Omar Barada, I think there's a big difference between being a senior executive at a club as well run as Manchester City to suddenly going to try and replicate that at Manchester United. And then you look at the morale, and I used this phrase a while ago, and other journalists have latched onto it now as well. Morale at the football club is at an all-time low amongst the staff that are still there. Obviously, the long-serving staff members that have been made redundant. The atmosphere at the ground has got worse, and the £66 tickets haven't helped with that. So, yeah, tell me one thing that INEOS have done well.
Well, do you know what? That's exactly what my next question was going to be to both of you. Can you think of one thing they've done well? The only thing I can think of or try to even entertain is actually when you look at Wilcox, his main resume is, like you say, running the City Academy and bringing through young players. I can see a shift in our business towards young players, bringing in the likes of Chiluobi, Sekou Kone, Aiden Heaven. That's something we weren't seeing previously, with the emphasis on trying to get some of the better players around Europe or around England to bring into our academy. Is that really significant right now? Absolutely not. Does it have a bearing on the first team squad right now? Well, I'll tell you what, Chiluobi got 20 minutes the other day, and Aiden Heaven's on our bench every game. So actually, it could have an impact on our first team, but that is slim pickings. I would also argue, or put to the table, that they were right to sort of say the Marcus Rashford situation. You've got to find a solution there. How they handled Jadon Sancho, I know they walked into that, but they still saw that through. But in terms of their big decision, that's all them of what's supposed to take us forward. I can't think. Getting a task force to even look at the stadium, is that a plus? Because that needed to happen, but it's slim pickings, Ange, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm genuinely trying to think. I guess.
Me cooking, you had longer, still couldn't think.
Yeah, I guess sticking by the managers when it came to people like Sancho and Rashford, etc. I'm assuming they did obviously stick by the managers with that. Yeah, give them that. Yeah, youth. I'll give them youth. But I think even if you can think of one or two things that they've done all right, the amount of things that they've done terribly and the way that the PR is around the club, in it, like some of the points I've already touched on, it is embarrassing that every single day I am getting trolled by my mates and I am being sent things of, oh, at the training ground, they're on the soup and sandwich. Oh, they're doing this. Oh, staff aren't allowed, stewards aren't allowed their bonus. Or it's all of that stuff to me that makes it even worse. That not only is and Ruben Amorim, bless him, he's coming out saying, I feel bad for these people that have been made redundant
Saying it's
because
their
it's
job.
actually our fault.
Our fault,
He's
yeah.
actually taking some kind of accountability that I think we've already said. He doesn't really need to do that, but at least he's showing he's got some kind of heart or soul. But I just think he's trying to deal with so much rubbish that is going on with the players on the pitch. And then also, he's, the face of this club that has got so much toxicity going on week in, week out, day in, day out. That can't make your job easy either. So I think for me, any positives, the negatives outweigh it drastically.
Do you think that they will improve in year 2? I mean, Crookie, of course, people can say you're going to make mistakes. You're new to this level of operation, and Manchester United's been a failing institution for a very, very long time. Do you think that they will start to get decisions right from here on out? Are the bad decisions behind us?
I think it's a massive summer, in terms of trying to get some of those players off the wage bill, in terms of trying to get Ruben Amorim the players that will suit his system. So I think Jason Wilcox in particular has got a huge job to do, and Christopher Vivell as well. I still think we might look back on the Dan Ashworth situation as a mistake, and you called it out as incompetence at the time, Flex. A lot of people say, well, actually, this is INEOS being ruthless. Now, Dan Ashworth is not a recruitment specialist, okay? There's a bit of a myth around him. He does his best work in terms of improving cultures and raising standards. Well, that's exactly what Manchester United need. So why INEOS have decided, having spent all that time and money getting him in, that he wasn't up to the job, I think is bizarre. If they're just pinning the signing of Joshua Zirkzee on him and the decision to stick with Erik ten Hag, I think that's a little bit unfair. And I think Dan Ashworth needed to be a long-term appointment. So again, to me, that is the emblem of the muddled thinking that INEOS have shown in the first year.
Yeah, and for me, my confidence is just not there. And like you said, I did say that at the time. It's funny how things start to change very quickly. That was seen largely by a lot of United fans at the time, whether it be online, in my group chats, people I speak to at the ground, saying, no, listen, I kind of like the fact that, okay, it's gone wrong, but if that was Ed Woodward, he would have been left there to just be taking money and draining resources, etc., etc. Okay, that's fine because you've realised he's the wrong guy, but you don't just get a free pass on the fact that you co-signed Dan Ashworth. You were doing interviews lauding him, saying how good he is and how silly Newcastle are being in terms of, making us wait. You're willing to basically go to court for Dan Ashworth is what essentially was being said, only for him to be sacked a couple of months later, shorter than he was actually on gardening leave for. So it's a monumental L. And like you say, how important was that role, Crookie, if they're saying, I'll tell you what, Jace, you could take that one anyway. Well, I'll tell you what, Christian, you're here for a short time anyway. It might make you permanent, not sure. But they all basically absorb what Dan Ashworth was doing. Well, then how important was it? Or are we even having specialists, like you said, in that area doing what Dan Ashworth was supposed to be doing? Well, you'd have to argue no, because the culture and the morale at the club, as you both said, is at an all-time low. And I just think INEOS are just so used to working with products. I stand by that. That Sir Jim Ratcliffe's success in business hasn't been in sport, really. No. If we're being honest, it's been through petrochemicals, it's been through product, materials, materials plus.
He's literally Mr. Burns from The Simpsons with his power plant, literally.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a Smithers walking around saying, what's going on here? Can we do this a little bit better? And he's like, just clear off. But guess what? At Manchester United, the product is people. The people you are working with every day and the people you're there to entertain and adhere to are people. And I think they're really struggling with that because they're very ruthless and come from a different background. When you look at what they're doing in sailing, in cycling, at Nice, not great.
They're trying to withdraw their sponsorship deal with Tottenham now, aren't they? They've already withdrawn it with the New Zealand rugby team as well. So these are all massive red flags in terms of how successful this project is actually going to be. And if you did a straw poll of Manchester United fans now, and I've still got huge reservations about the authenticity of Sheikh Jassim and that bid from Qatar, But if you said to United supporters, you can either stick with INEOS or the Qataris will come in, they will buy the football club, including the kitchen sink, I think the results would be massively in favour of the Qataris.
Absolutely, because before it was, don't want to be state-owned and this, that and the other and all of that. But like you said, football works very, very quickly and fans can change their minds very quickly on things. And whether, we talk about the legitimacy of the bid and this, that and the other, Sir Jim Ratcliffe even suggesting that Sheikh Jassim wasn't even real. Who knows? But I definitely agree with you on that.